Imagine holding a globe in your hands. Its oceans shimmer under the light, the continents curve across its surface, familiar, comforting, constant. But somewhere between the blue and the green, there's a space where something should be and isn't. Not a blank ocean, not a mistake in printing. An entire country, gone. Erased so completely that if you opened an atlas, even from decades ago, you wouldn't find a single trace. This isn't a fable. It's not a cartographer's error. This was deliberate. So why would the world decide to erase a nation from every map? And more importantly, what happened to the people who called it home? The forgotten coordinates. Our trail begins with a map dated 1923, printed in faded ink, tucked inside a weathered library archive in Lisbon, Portugal. The coastline curves sharply, and there it is, a small, oddly shaped landmass nestled in the waters between Africa and the Arabian Peninsula. The label, Azuria, a country you've never heard of, not in school textbooks, not in documentaries, and yet here it was, recognized, mapped, named. Flip forward just a few years to a 1930 atlas, and Azuria is gone. The waters where it once sat are now an uninterrupted expanse of blue. No notation, no footnote. Not even the dotted outline mapmakers usually leave for disputed territories, as if it had never existed, a vanishing act with no witnesses. Most countries erased from history leave traces, a military invasion, a rebellion, a natural disaster. But Azuria? Silence. No newspapers, no diplomatic cables, no photographs of a flag being lowered for the last time. When I reached out to cartography historians, one compared it to finding an unmarked grave in the middle of a busy city. Everyone walks past it, but nobody dares to ask why it's there. And yet, someone had to make this decision. Countries don't vanish from maps on their own. The smuggled journal. The first real clue came from a curious source, a handwritten journal sold in a small antiques market in Cairo. Inside, in neat French script, the author, a merchant sailor named Lucien Moreau, describes a port call in Azuria in 1919. He writes of whitewashed houses, narrow stone alleys, and markets overflowing with saffron and dates. He mentions a governor, a colonial treaty, and something far stranger. The men in the tavern whisper of the northern cliffs, he wrote. They say the rocks themselves are poisoned. The air burns the lungs. The water twists the mind. Ships that anchor too close drift away unmanned. It reads like superstition until you find the naval logs, the military silence. In the British Admiralty archives, there's a classified memorandum dated 1925, stamped restricted, Colonial Office eyes only. It refers to Azuria Station and the mandatory cessation of all maritime contact. Every ship was ordered to alter its charts, to literally erase Azuria from navigation records. A coordinated blackout. And here's the detail that chills you. The memo doesn't say why. The official reason? Regional instability. But there are no records of war. No refugee accounts, no photographs of devastation, just absence. The Forbidden Shore satellite imagery from today shows something unusual. In the coordinates where Azuria once was, there's a rocky formation barely breaking the surface. But the shoreline pattern matches the old 1923 map almost perfectly, as if the island had been shaved down. Some geologists claim it could be erosion. Others, more quietly, suggest demolition, the kind of large-scale blasting only possible with heavy naval artillery. If that's true, someone didn't just erase Azuria from the maps. They erased Azuria itself. A pattern of erasures. This isn't the only time such an operation has happened. In 1952, the U.S. Navy wiped Bermeja Island from nautical charts, officially due to inaccurate surveys, though rumors point to strategic oil reserves in the surrounding waters. In the Cold War, Soviet maps routinely altered or deleted entire towns for secrecy. But Azuria predates all of that. This was a nation with currency, laws, trade, removed decades before geopolitics learned to hide in cartography. Which begs the question, what was so dangerous about Azuria that the entire world agreed to pretend it never existed? The last survivor? In 1961, a BBC radio segment briefly mentioned the last living citizen of Azuria, an elderly man living in Marseille, claiming his home had been taken by the sea and by men. He spoke of being evacuated in the middle of the night by foreign soldiers, of being told never to speak the country's name again. And then the interview was cut short. The BBC archives don't list the recording anymore. It's gone. A ghost nation. Today, Azuria exists only in the margins, on a handful of outdated maps, in one sailor's diary, and in whispers from the descendants of people who may or may not have ever lived there. We don't know if the stories of poisoned cliffs were real, if the demolition theory holds weight, or if Azuria was erased for something far stranger, something that terrified governments enough to conspire in silence. Because here's the truth. Maps are not just records of where things are. They are instruments of power, and when a place is removed from them, it's not just geography that disappears. It's the people, the history, the truth itself. And Azuria might not be the only one. Hidden in other archives, there are names, other countries, islands, even cities that suffered the same fate. One of them was erased in just the last 40 years, and its story is even stranger. But that's a map for another time.